I'll call the Budget Committee meeting to order. I'd like to call roll. Go ahead.
Mayor Jackala,
Present?
Council President Steinhebel,
Here.
Councilor Dykstra,
Here.
Councilor Mann, Councilor Olfers,
Here.
Councilor Workman,
Present.
Councilor Salvage,
Here.
Mr. Wells, Ms. Grizzle,
Here.
Mr. King,
Here.
Mr. Caddy, Mr. Conti,
Here.
Mr. Waterhouse.
Here.
Alrighty, thank you. First thing I'd like to do is we'll just start over here with Dave and go around the table because we have some new members on the Budget Committee, and just introduce yourself. So Dave, if you would.
Dave Workman, Councilor Ward 2, first term.
Jeremy Salvage, Counselor Ward 3.
Brandon Nish, Finance Director, City of Lebanon.
Mayor Jackala.
Ron Whitlatch, Interim City Manager and Engineering Director.
Michelle Steinhebel, City Councilor for Ward 3 and Council President.
KJ Olfers, Counselor, Ward 2.
Wayne Dykstra, Counselor Ward 1.
I'm Dominic Conti, Budget Committee.
Waterhouse, Budget Committee.
Rebecca Grizzle, CEO Lebanon Chamber Budget Committee.
Jeff King, Budget Committee.
All righty, thank you. As we all know, this is one of our #1 priorities in city government is this budget. So I hope we're ready to strap on and get after it. So, so anyhow, first thing, we need to elect a nomination for chair.
I'd like to make a motion, just right away. I'd like to make a motion to nominate Councilor Salvage to be Board Chair, Budget Chair.
Second.
Second.
Look at that.
Okay, that's, wow.
It was like that was Candace.
It's like that was like an
Crack
L-shaped
some
ambush
knuckles on
there.
this one.
The motion to nominate Councilor Savage for Budget Committee was made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I guess you're it.
Not opposed.
When's the inauguration?
So at this point, this is your meeting. So
right.
you can go right off that right there. If you look on nominations,
Election of Secretary.
the bottom one is the one that you can use as a script if you need to.
Are there any nominations for Budget Committee Secretary?
I would nominate Counselor Workman.
Second.
All right, we have a nomination and a second. All in favor of Counselor Workman, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries unanimously. All right, so we have our, it's done.
This is not my rodeo.
Presentations, fiscal year 24-25 City of Lebanon Budget Message, presented by Ron Whitlatch, Interim City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Budget Committee members, and city councilors. It's our pleasure to present to you the Lebanon fiscal year 25 proposed budget. Bear with me because I am going to read this in full as it needs to go into the record that way. And so we'll walk through this and give you an overview of our budget and where we're headed this next year. Preparing for a budget, basically it's a roadmap or a plan, allows the city to look into needs while considering the funds available to meet those needs. In Oregon, all local governments must produce a balanced budget, meaning the resources and requirements are equal. In the following pages, you will find detailed insights into our revenue projections and planned expenditures aimed at continuing to provide current services while planning for a difficult future ahead. City of Lebanon employs a conservative yet realistic approach to budgeting. When creating projections and estimates, the city uses multiple data sources to develop scenarios that are as close to real time as possible. We believe this methodology results in a more accurate representation of the city's financial condition. Moving forward, the community will be forced to make some decisions on a level of services expected and desired. Some services are required by law while others benefit livability, but do not meet the legal obligation. As we navigate the opportunities and challenges ahead, I invite you to join us in shaping the future of Lebanon throughout the engagement and collaboration. With each Budget cycle, the city reviews budget document to identify ways to increase clarity and transparency. This year, the document has been streamlined to enhance clarity regarding the city's financial position. For example, the Parks Division, funded with general fund monies, was previously operated under its own fund, which required a transfer of funds from the general fund into a separate Parks Fund. The Parks Division is now housed in the general fund, eliminating direct transfers and unnecessary complexity. The city has also invested in budgeting software, ClearGov, that will allow budget to be more easily viewed and searched online. Although the proposed budget includes personnel and service reductions, these are generally limited to the general fund and internal services funds with minor adjustments in other funds. Meanwhile, the city continues to invest in infrastructure with major capital projects planned to include 7th Street, which is water, sewer, storm, and street replacement, airport road improvements, which includes a stoplight, Airport and Stoltz, at the intersection of Airport and Stoltz Road, Cheetah Lake Park improvements, and several smaller other water line and sanitary sewer line replacements. These investments, however, continue to be hampered by inflationary costs, backups, and supply chains that have led to 30 to 50% increases in some costs and order lead times that are approaching a year for certain types of materials. In addition, the current workforce shortages meant contractors are having trouble getting enough employees on the job to complete tasks timely. Also included in the proposed budget is a decision to accelerate debt payments in the Northwest Urban Renewal District to bring the fund's obligations to zero by fiscal year 2028 and close this urban renewal district. While the urban renewal districts are not contained in this proposed budget, there is a separate one for these. Urban renewals siphon a portion of the property tax collection from the general fund and other taxing entities to invest in infrastructure to support housing and economic growth. Closing the Northwest Urban Renewal District in 2028 will allow taxes currently received by the Urban Renewal District to return to the local taxing entities, including the city where property taxes are received in the general fund. Presently, the Urban Renewal Agency, which manages the urban renewal districts, is under levying the district, resulting in some tax revenue going to the local taxing entities. To facilitate this plan, the general fund will experience a reduction in the current property tax revenue of nearly $270,000 for the next 3 fiscal years. The agency may also consider the closure of other urban renewal districts, such as the downtown, that are not generating funding needed to complete projects for the district to redistribute the funding back to the general fund. Challenges. The organization faces significant challenges ahead, particularly in addressing the systemic issue of spending exceeding revenue generation, a structural imbalance. These challenges are particularly pronounced in the general fund, where immediate action is needed to prevent a deficit fund balance by fiscal year 2027. 5-year projections reveal a pressing need to either reduce expenditures or secure additional revenues amounting to the minimum of $2 million annually. Historical data underscores this urgency, with the general fund experiencing losses in 2013 and 2020 and forecasts indicating a continuation without intervention. Last year's budget identified future projects for the city's general fund, which demonstrated the structural imbalance. Knowing the city would soon be faced with difficult decisions, the previous budget was developed to increase efficiencies of service and minimize expenditures to the greatest extent possible. Additionally, throughout the fiscal year, savings have been achieved through maintaining position vacancies for departments when feasible. Departments impacted by vacancies in fiscal year 2024 include the police department, parks, city manager, library, safety and training, finance, and economic development. With the impending financial constraints facing the city, there are several policy priorities and challenges impacting budget and service demands, including increasing personnel costs with market and cost of living adjustments and new union contract agreements, increases in liability and health insurance premiums, public employees' retirement system costs, service levels with funding reductions, addressing the municipal jail, and unfunded mandates such as paid leave Oregon. With structural imbalance in funding versus programming and resulting negative fund balance for the general fund within 3 years, the city will need to continue evaluating priorities and identify a different way of doing business. The proposed fiscal year 2025 budget reflects a 7.5% decrease, $1.2 million in personnel expenditures, prior to the cost of living adjustments and other benefits as part of our strategic efforts to prepare for the future and mitigate costs. These reductions largely reflect elimination of positions created by vacancies from the previous fiscal year, which has resulted in restructuring of departments and reduction in service capacity. In total, this budget proposes a reduction of 9.75 full-time equivalent positions, primarily affecting the general and internal service funds in the following departments: the city recorder, economic development, finance, human resources, library, and the public works parks section. These reductions will help reduce the impact on the general fund. It is important to note that departments in the city of Lebanon were already operating lean and staff still maintain a high level of quality of service. These reductions will impact service levels, the extent of which will not be known and need to be monitored and evaluated over the future. Notably, the 2025 budget does not allocate additional funds for reopening the municipal jail, despite its significance to both the city council and the community. Reopening of the jail would require additional financial resources in the general fund, further exacerbating the structural imbalance and shortening the time before the city reaches negative fund balance. Heading off into the future, the city's financial outlook is challenging, and getting to a better long-term balance will require some time and effort on the part of city staff and the community. The general fund forecast shows expenditures will exceed revenues annually. The structural problem in the general fund is expected to grow significantly in 2026, primarily to the increase in planned PERS expenses driven by rate increases. With current projections, by 2029, expenditures are expected to exceed revenues by $2.3 million annually. Without intervention, the city is projected to run a deficit in fiscal year 2027. Revisions will be necessary as Oregon local budgeting manual states that negative budgeted fund balances are a violation of local budget law. The proposed budget with general fund deficiencies does not include funding to address key council priorities and service needs. The municipal jail remains unfunded. Costs to reopen the jail are estimated at $750,000 to meet requirements for mental health and medical care for adults in custody, as well as provide consistent in-jail staffing that does not diminish police officers' time in the field. To reopen the jail, additional revenue sources would need to be identified, alternative partnerships with neighboring agencies formed, or out-of-the-box thinking to reduce costs while obtaining the service. The park system is understaffed. We've reduced that by 2 full-time equivalent employees, and frequently other public works staff are called on to assist with some of the maintenance and custodial functions, limiting other work that also needs to be accomplished. Community Development Department has proposed eliminating the dedicated staff for economic development services, resulting in significant reduction of city-led economical development services. Beyond the constraints of the general fund, there are a number of significant challenges on the horizon. City has no resources to fix local streets. While the city does receive contributions from state gas tax, the funds are inadequate to cover the 68.4 miles of paved roads and 1.6 miles of unpaved roads that are responsibility of the city. What little resources that are available typically go towards high-volume streets, leaving little or no resources for residential streets. The wastewater treatment plant master plan is nearing completion and includes recommendations for many needed, in some cases mandatory projects. The top 2 priority projects revealed by the master plan at this point are estimated to cost around $35 million. The city currently has set aside $15 million in reserves for these projects. With the federal court injunction requiring the drawdown of Green Peter Dam, the South San Am River, the city's key water source, experienced extreme sustained turbidity levels, taxing our water treatment plant systems, accelerating our maintenance replacement schedules, and increasing costs for operations. With the drawdown anticipated to continue annually, this city will need to plan for increased maintenance and replacement costs, as well as possible development of a pretreatment system. Lebanon crossed the 20,000 population threshold in 2023, according to an annual study completed by Portland State University. This reduces grant opportunities as the city no longer qualifies for rural-focused grants. Non-rural focused grants exist, but are far more competitive and usually more technical and extensive, requiring professional expertise and capacity that does not exist within our current staffing levels. With the financial constraints of the city grants, we will need to become a major tool to complete projects moving forward. In closing, the challenges facing the city in the coming years will necessitate a problem-solving mindset, the thoughtful guidance of counsel, and some ingenuity. While the city's financial outlook may appear daunting, it is imperative to recognize that Lebanon remains resilient, possesses untapped potential for growth and revitalization. New development and steady influx of residents contribute to an optimistic trajectory, bolstering property tax revenues and fostering support for our local businesses. As stewards of the city's well-being, we must continue to embrace innovation and adaptability to optimize our operations effectively. Moreover, our growth must be guided by a commitment to responsible and sustainable practices, ensuring that the organization maintains the capacity to deliver essential services to our community, both now and in the future. As we work together over the next several years to ensure our organizational and serviceability, we will keep the city's mission at the forefront, providing exceptional service and opportunities that enhance the quality of life for present and future members of the community. Preparation of the budget is a team effort. I'd like to thank all the department directors who worked on this, and I would really like to give a great thanks to Brandon. He put in an enormous amount of time, ran a new software, and we are a month early this year. And a big thanks to him for all the work that he's done. I helped by watching him mostly. So
Good job.
with that, I formally submit the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget for your consideration. Sorry for the lengthy talk, but there you go.
All right. Brandon, are you going to go through the budget with us, or are we?
We'll go to the next, Ron has to do the Urban Renewal Agency first.
then
And then,
we'll-
yes, we'll cover,
All right.
Your
Then we
document.
will briefly adjourn as the Lebanon Budget Committee and convene as the Urban and Rural Agency Budget Committee. And with that, we'll turn it back to Ron for the Urban Renewal Agency budget message.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Budget Committee members. I'm pleased to present the proposed budget for the fiscal year 25 Lebanon Urban Renewal Agency. The agency has 5 urban renewal districts, or URDs, including the Northwest, North Gateway, Mill Race, Downtown, and Cheetah Lake. Each district's budget is accounted for in a separate fund in this budget document. The budget is balanced in each fund, and all debt provisions are expected to be met. There is not much change from fiscal year 25 to the fiscal year 24 to the fiscal year 25 budget. However, 2 URDs have specific changes to address operational needs. The Northwest Urban Renewal District has no changes in expenditures, but the agency is planning to increase revenue for the Urban Renewal District brings in order to prepare for accelerated payments on outstanding debt. For the last 3 years, the Urban Renewal District has drawn substantially less than it is legally allowed to pull above the frozen tax base. This fiscal year, the Urban Renewal District will increase the amount levied, allowing the district to pay outstanding debt over the 3 years instead of through 2032 per current payment schedules. This action will allow for the closeout of the Northwest Urban Renewal District and return the funds to the different taxing entities, helping bolster the general fund, including the city's general fund. In the North Gateway Urban Renewal District, work is ramping up to begin a street reconstruction project on 5th Street. Agency staff, along with several consultants, are currently planning and developing the project scope spanning from Tangent Street to Mary Street. To date, planning and scoping activities include topographic survey, traffic signal warrant analysis, which is in progress, and a preliminary roadway and utility layout. Once the final scope has been completed, the agency intends to go out for a bond sale to fund this project. The bond sale is anticipated to begin in the spring of 2025, with construction in summer of 2025. The remaining urban renewal districts are business as usual for fiscal year 25 proposed budget. The downtown urban renewal district is continuing to collect nominal funds. However, staff is reviewing options moving forward, conducting a cost-benefit analysis for this urban renewal district based on the minimal funding generated in the district versus the viability of completing projects and considering the potential of collapsing the urban renewal district. The Mill Race Urban Renewal District continues to meet the obligations of an economic development agreement to encourage growth in the district, and the private developer continues to work toward bringing commercial businesses to the development and is actively working with the Oregon Department of Transportation to connect the development site to the highway. With the items contained in this letter and the budget contained herein, I formally submit the fiscal year 25 proposed budget for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Then we will now adjourn as the Urban and Rural Agency Budget Committee, and we will reconvene as the Lebanon Budget Committee.
So I'll take a few minutes. Some of you have printed copies of the budget document in front of you. Others have opted to use the city's new online format for the budget book this year. For those of you that have opted for the online budget, the Urban Renewal Agency budget, you'll receive a link to that today. But in the meantime, we'll just kind of go through kind of what you have in front of you. So those of you with the book in front of you, all of the same content is in the book. Just has page numbers, obviously, instead of navigating. The beginning part of the book is similar to, for those of you that were here last year, what you had last year. So you've got the budget message, obviously, up front, a small synopsis of the city. We did include some new demographic information this year, courtesy of the software that we are using. All of the data at the bottom has a data source. In most cases, that data source is the American Community Survey, their 5-year estimates. So they are all indicated in that manner. But some additional information for you all to take in as part of this budget review process. Going through the rest of this, we have all of you listed for budget committee members, as well as a list of the administrative staff. As you're going through this budget, what I can tell you is, as Ron indicated, this was a team effort. Okay, so each of these department directors put in their requests, has worked with Ron and I on what that proposed budget is that is now before you. So if you have questions specifically about the department itself, our recommendation to you is that you reach out to each of the department heads that is responsible for that section. They can answer your questions best. They know their specific departments better than I or Ron do. And we would probably be doing you a disservice as we threw a dart at a dartboard for you. So reach out to them. If you have questions about the specific numbers or anything about the document itself, certainly Ron or I can be helpful in that regard. Okay. Let's see. An organization chart is provided. Some of these items hit specific goals and requirements for kind of a standard budget document as put out by the Government Finance Officers Association, a national organization that kind of helps folks like me get through our daily lives in our jobs. For those of you that are new, I would recommend visiting this fund structure section of the book. Might be labeled as, it's labeled as fund structure in the table of contents, or under introduction if you're using the online portal. But what this outlines is kind of the structure of where all of our different stuff sits. And these particularly come into play as you go through these fund summaries, which we'll get to in a minute. But typically, money sitting in individual funds cannot necessarily be shared amongst other funds. So the best example of that is, I'm going to use the water utility as an example. Funds, fees earned by the water utility primarily remain in the water utility fund. They cannot be used for general fund purposes, except for, there's a caveat, the utility does pay a franchise fee similar to what other utility providers across the city cover. And we'll cover some of that as we go through the overall budget document with you over the next meeting or 2 meetings, depending on what you all set. But most of the time, funds within those specific buckets remain in those and cannot be transferable without a specific service need. What we have changed this year is we've kind of given you a department breakdown. So within your document, you have an expenditure summary that remains the same. We have covered personnel for you, given you some information related to what our FTE has looked like since 2018 and the budgeted positions. We go back 2 fiscal years and what that looks like until you get to this year's proposal. And then in each of the departments, you will find, let me use mine as an example, you will find an organization chart at the bottom that covers the FTEs specific to those departments. As you're going through the fund summaries, there is also a similar personnel table in each of those that shows you, I'm gonna use community development as an example. They have people that are budgeted partially in the general fund, partially in the building fund, and partially in 2 of the utility funds. We've broken that all out for you so that you can see where all of our stuff goes, okay? As far as the fund summary, so the department pages are primarily what the departments are going to present to you on based on kind of how we establish the next meeting or two. They'll run through their information in there, giving you an idea of what it is they do, some of their challenges that they are facing, whether that be staffing, materials, capital needs, whatever that may look like. So each of them should be around and available for you to ask questions and get some information from. Fund summaries will break down each fund as we have it. So like this is the general fund, for example. As you scroll through, there's specific data related to the general fund itself. A comprehensive summary in each of these tabs so that you can see, we're spending this much on personnel in the general fund, this much on materials and service, and so on and so forth. You get an idea of what revenue we bring in. All of this information is contained in the document. We've tried to give you as much as possible because we heard you all last year when you said that there was some stuff that you felt like you were missing. And certainly if you think there is still stuff missing, let us know, right? We aim to please in this document as far as this document is supposed to be for you to get an idea of what it is the city does year over year, what our priorities are. This is a proposed budget that then comes to you for review and approval. And if you feel like you're missing something in this process, let us know so that we can make that improvement for you and get that information to you. The last section is a section on debt. So you can get an idea. Right now, this would say that at the end of 2025, based on our payment schedules, we'll be left with almost $41 million in outstanding debt. It breaks down where that debt is. And then further, if you go over to the debt by type overview, you can get the specific items. So like 32% of our outstanding debt belongs to the West Side Interceptor, a project that was just completed this fiscal year, and we're just starting repayments on. And the water treatment plant has a very large portion of the city's overall debt. So you get a lot of information in this document. Take your time to go through it. I think it's fantastic reading. Some people may not agree with me, but that's okay. But certainly ask the questions as you go. One thing we are going to try to do this year is if one of you asks a question either to me or to Ron or our department directors, the chances are somebody else has that question as well. So we're going to kind of keep track of those and bring those back to the budget committee so that we can kind of put that out there for the public, for you, for the community, because this is really your budget. So that's really it in a nutshell. There are 2 documents. Those of you with printed copies, there's a blue cardstock-ish piece of paper dividing the city budget and the urban renewal agency budget. We have to go through both. We have to adopt, or we have to approve both with whatever changes are recommended by this committee. So do make sure that you read through all of it. I know sometimes you get through the city budget and you feel like, well, that was 332 pages of exhilarating reading. I don't know if I can read any more, but I promise you the urban renewal agency budget is slightly smaller. It's only 40 some odd pages, but just as important.
But also riveting.
Also riveting, yes. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer right now? I know you just got your books, so I don't expect a lot, but certainly if you do have questions, I'm happy to answer them. We changed this process a little bit based on feedback from last year. So we are kicking this off early. You are receiving your budget documents today. The idea now is that you will get to take this, spend 3 to 4 weeks with your budget, read it, study it. There'll be a quiz when you come back. Not really. But really get a handle on what's in there so that you feel like you are able to make the best decision possible for this community. And then in 3 to 4 weeks, when we come back, based on kind of your schedules, we'll start diving into the material and getting to kind of the meat and potatoes of what you have questions about.
I just want to say, this is my 10th time doing the budget. This is the most transparent and open that I've seen in any of the years that we've done this, and I really appreciate that. I know there was a lot of harsh feedback last year. I also appreciate the fact that we have more than 10 days to look at and approve a budget. And thank you for all the hard work. I know this is not easy, though you stay up late because you like to do this. I know that.
I do love budget. This
But
is my favorite time.
thank you to you guys and the staff. I appreciate it much.
Thank you.
Brandon, I noticed on the airport road, Stolzfeld traffic signal, 2.2 million. Has that been an increase because of parts?
So I think the 2.2 million is what we expected to be overdrawn in future years, or is that a project you're looking at? Oh, there it is. I'll let Ron answer that. He's better at that.
So we've changed the scope of it a little bit. So if you remember back, I don't know, maybe 8, 9 months ago, Build Unlimited Trails came in and requested that we do a multi-use path from 7th Street to Burkhart Creek. So that's an addition. So that's pretty substantial. Part of that is cost for Pacific Power to move poles and whatnot, because we've already asked them to do it once, which they did. So we're on the hook for it this time. So there's increased cost there. And then just with, since we've started this in 2020 or 2021, just keeping the inflationary up with it. We don't have a true cost estimate on it right now. That number that you see up there is the number that we're pretty confident we can do the project in. I don't know if that's going to be exact or not, and that comes from multiple different funds, so.
So our recommendation for kind of the next steps in this process is that the budget committee set some future meetings, again, 3 to 4 weeks from now, preferably, but really it's up to you all as to how long you want to kind of review this document. Our recommendation is going to be 2 meetings, 2 additional meetings, right? We would bring forth, we would have Public Works, Engineering, IT, and our Links Transit departments present to you on that first meeting. Answer any questions that you have from your document, give you a chance to quiz them on their stuff, per se. And then the second meeting, we would propose that we would start talking in depth about the general fund. That's going to be a primary concern for a lot of people, I think, and something that we want to kind of make sure we step through with you. All the departments that have general fund expenditures would present to you with that as well. We're not anticipating huge department presentations, 5 to 10 minutes each, really, to give you just a brief overview of their department, but then give you a chance to answer or to ask any questions that you have of them about their operations. That's our proposal for you. Budget committees of the past have done this in more or less meetings. But it's really up to this body as to how you kind of want to progress here.
Can you remind everybody what the drop dead date on getting this thing completed by is?
This committee has to make a recommendation to the city council. And in order to make the city council, we have to adopt a budget. The city council has to review and adopt a budget by June 30th, no later. So in order to do that, our usual plan is that we hit the June council meeting, June 12th, to do budget adoption, which would mean at the very latest, this body has to review and approve and or make any changes by probably the 24th of May to give us enough time to get stuff situated for city council.
Some folks are new to the process. So.
Yeah, thank you.
So we're looking for you guys to, Brandon threw out a proposal to you, so what would you like to see? I mean, like Brandon says, your guys' to choose.
You mentioned the first meeting was the links review, and what else did it involve? Will there be departments head for the first meeting?
Yeah, department heads would be here.
Okay.
So our proposal was Public Works, Engineering, IT, and Links Transit for that first meeting. The second meeting would be everything general fund, basically.
There's typically quite a bit more time spent on the general fund, so we thought we'd get through some of the, and again, this is just our proposal, get through some of the other departments that aren't as lengthy in terms of discussion when we do that, so.
Are either for first two meetings locked into being day or evening meetings for functional purpose?
That's this committee's decision.
I mean, if we had a bunch of department heads had to be here during the middle of the day, would that be is that a stress?
No.
Okay.
Do you have a council work session already 3 weeks from today, correct?
Yes,
So that's out.
yes.
That's the 24th.
24th, yeah.
Unless you wanted to do it after.
I like May 1st. I like May 1st. Are you guys thinking like one day and then the next? I mean, that
Yes.
That, yeah,
Each day.
a 2-day cycle, yeah. But certainly if the committee, if that was really hard on a majority of the committee and they couldn't do that, we could do 1 week and then the next week. But 2 days back to back allows for us to kind of get everything in front of you. This is stuff that while we are deeply involved in this every day, we understand that you all are, some of you are very new to this and others aren't necessarily dealing with this every day. So having some of that kind of repetition is helpful.
Well, to get a feel from the group, is a noon meeting what's going to work out for most of us? Or do
I
we
like
need-
it.
Do we need to have you like noon?
I like noon.
We do expect that the future meetings would take additional time, right? So we're anticipating this meeting to be done long before 1 o'clock. The other meetings, we would probably expect 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours for each one. So just keep that in mind.
I think I'm fine with the noon meetings too. I would like to push it a little further out just because I do have some questions for. And then department heads, and this gives, I'm sure I'm not the only one that might have questions. So it gives everybody time to go meet with them and ask those questions of them before. So we're fully prepared when we come back. I was looking at the week of May 13th, quite honestly, but just throwing that out there for everybody. Going once, going twice.
So our city council meeting in May is May 8th, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And then planning commission would be on the 15th.
And would it be more ideal to have made a decision during the city? Because the budget committee has to make this recommendation to the city council. The city council has to approve it. So we would either have to do that by our May 8th meeting or have a special meeting as a city council to approve it.
We're thinking that you
Approve
would
it in
approve it
June.
in
Yeah, we'd
June.
approve it at our June meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's why he was saying we have to get it done by like the 24th of May,
gotcha.
have everything completed.
Okay, the budget committee has to have it done by the 24th of May.
Correct.
All right, then I'm going to throw out some dates that work for me.
That's important. You're the chair.
Chair.
And
Yeah.
we'll see how. So the week of, I like the idea of an earlier meeting and to get the dialogue going. And then and that way, if we have to have a third meeting, it gives us a little bit of time.
Yep.
I really only want to do 2. And I like the idea of back to back so we can be.
But you got to allow for that third in case something goes on.
Right. So giving us time for that possible third. Did I hear anyone say that the first week of May does not work? Like May, it's a month from now.
May
Is that,
1st.
Michelle, do you feel like that's enough time?
I will make it enough time.
Well, we can
Yeah,
move,
no, it's fine. It'll be fine.
the second week of May, we could do May 8th and 9th. Oh, sorry, that's our city council meeting that day. I don't think we want to have 2 meetings.
Yeah, the 8th is a council meeting.
Yep.
The 9th and the 10th.
10th is out, it's Friday. I'm cooking at the soup kitchen.
I too am out the 10th. But I could do, Michelle, you could do, like, I could do April 30th, May 1st. I couldn't do May 1st, May 2nd, but just the 2nd is out for me, but,
30th and the 1st works for me, too.
May 29th and May 30th? Is that
April
work?
April 30th, May 1st.
April
Sorry,
30th, May
May,
1st.
April 29th, April 30th. Does that work for?
yes.
April and April.
That's a Monday and a Tuesday.
29th and 30th? Monday and Tuesday?
That works for me.
works better for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually works for me too.
Okay.
I like it.
These are noon meetings, correct? That's what we're talking about?
Noon meetings.
Yep.
So April 29th at noon and April 30th at noon.
Yep.
Okay.
You said noon meeting, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep,
On
from noon to
the-
4.
On the 29th and the 30th?
Yeah, 29th and 30th.
Noon to what?
Seeing if you're listening.
Oh, yeah,
Noon till the.
barely.
We need to know which year, though.
24.
We're not dealing with OHA. We'll be this year.
I will probably be late on that Monday, but I will be here. Unless I can move this.
That'd be like a bring your own lunch kind of meeting. I mean, I'm sorry to
No,
bring
you're
up food.
you're
but
bringing
It's
food for
very
all of us.
important.
At least for me.
Oh,
I'm bringing, what's
The
that?
chamber.
If you look at the
Going
budget,
bring-
it's a bring your
Chamber's
own.
providing.
For it.
We'll provide lunch.
Oh, my
Cha-
goodness.
Chamber can sponsor that.
We've got a
We're going to
donation.
talk in a little bit.
Have a donation?
And,
We'll
and the
provide
30th
lunch on
was
both
noon
Take it
too.
out of your,
Yep.
somebody hit my building fund.
Making bollards out of that fund.
And then so with those 2 days, does the committee like the proposal as far as the structure for those 2 days? Do you want to mix that up somehow?
Let's go with the proposal, if everyone's good with that, and if changes need, I mean, well, yeah, well, that's what we'll do.
Yeah,
And then,
we can flex somewhat.
Like I said,
but-
we have enough room if we have to have a third meeting, and there's almost a whole month to squeeze that in.
All right.
Okay, let's see, we got the next scheduled budget meeting. Are there any other questions, observations, concerns? All right, then the budget meeting is adjourned. Nice work.
Thank you, everybody.
God, I kind